radio is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. When pressed, what legislation would actually have prevented significant killing? The Democrats will stumble around to talking about bump stocks and things that they don't even know anything about it. They just start using these phrases. Well, the bump stock would have prevented this. And then, oops, we find out that what, Raymond? The bump stock was actually approved by which administration?
Well, it was about a year and a half into the Barack Obama administration that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives issued an opinion letter giving the go-ahead to an aftermarket accessory that allows the user to bump fire a semi-automatic rifle. So it was during the Obama administration.
Well, so it was actually the Obama. When it says bump, it means because of the recoil of the AR-15 or gun like it, when you pull the trigger, you recoil, and it can shoot a lot faster and a lot more. It's sort of mimicking an automatic weapon fire, but not entirely, because it ultimately overheats the barrel,
right,
and it ultimately will stop.
But it's a bump stock that what it does is it's intended to assist people whose hands have limited mobility, so that it bumps
like
the fire.
Almost.
What?
It could be for the disabled then.
Right.
Someone who, like for me, I have no my.
Oh,
ring
are we
finger,
disabled? No.
My ring finger on my right hand has been maimed since July in Botswana, and this thing is not straightening. It is a real sight for sore eyes. And the TV show, I'm going to have to just hold. I mean, thank God it's not the middle finger.
Very Pelosi-esque. I noticed last night Nancy has a couple of digits
she has a couple
that
of
are
crooked fingers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, now I have empathy for Nancy.
I was watching that town hall very closely.
No, the CNN town hall.
Hard to follow, but
well, the bump stock. It's the bump stock is the problem. Brittany talked about that today. It's the bump stock.
She's having those mini lapses that
there are great gaps in the flow of talk.
Well, she's thinking. She's thinking, people. Don't you understand that Nancy has a lot of thoughts in her mind, and they're coming so fast. She doesn't want to overwhelm you with either analysis or information.
She doesn't want to overheat her barrel.
Precisely, to keep it in these terms.
Yes.
But I told you yesterday that when you hear the litany of repeated phrases, the bump stock, the number of weapons, the time period in which he purchased the weapons, thoughts and prayers, don't spare me your thoughts and prayers, we need action. The Democrats were all reading from the same script for the last 72 hours. And then the photos came out. The photos selectively leaked from the crime scene and you look at the cover of the New York Times today, boy, they're perfectly laid down. It looks, I mean, it does look like a scene from a Law and Order or something, don't you think? The way there's one in the bathtub, or there's one in the...
Yeah, that's kind of a love seat that's closed. It's two half chairs that are pushed together.
God. Oh. It's all... I'm curious that you see the bump stock in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Selective leaking of photos. The press has a overwhelming lack of curiosity as to why those photos were selectively leaked, and where are the other photos? Where are the press folks asking questions about the check-in of Mr. Paddock? When he checked in by himself, 10 significant-sized bags that held these weapons. Where's that? Where's the video? You're releasing video of body cam, like one body cam video, as far as I can tell, just one. You know, all those police officers had body cams. One body cam video, and these pictures of the cart and it's just very curious. But you notice how the media, they're only on gun control. They're not on, wait a second. How is this even possible for one man with no significant weapons training,
64 years old,
and clearly in poor health, who could have pulled this off? Do you notice it's just... There's something about this that just does not add up for a lot of Americans, and I can understand why people are thinking that. I have lots of questions We're going to try to answer them together. Cliff Van Zandt is going to join us. He's an FBI profiler. He has some very interesting thoughts about how this could have gone down. So you're not going to want to miss that interview. We're going to talk to him. Judge Roy Moore from Alabama will be in the studio. So we'll be talking to him. I can't wait to hear what he says about the rush to take the guns. But it's going to be incremental. The NRA is right about that. The incremental erosion of Second Amendment rights. It has to happen that way. It's not going to happen, they're going to outlaw all your weapons. Never happens that way. But it happens bit by bit, step by step, slowly but surely, to lead ultimately to the full national gun registry, all the things that they want in order to, ultimately disarm the public. Nora O'Donnell was speaking on CBS to Dianne Feinstein, again, not about all these lingering questions about Mr. Paddock, his background, his association. There's some of the interesting comments that the police chief made that aren't getting enough publicity. Not any of that, but moving right to the topic of the moment. This one piece of equipment that you could add on to an AR-15 type weapon. Let's listen.
There could be bipartisan support in Congress to ban bump stocks. They are legal devices that modify rifles to shoot rapid fire, similar to fully automatic weapons. Federal officials say Paddock had bump stocks on at least 12 of the rifles he brought to his hotel suite. Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein has introduced a bill to prohibit the sale of bump stocks.
You have to say enough is enough. You have to say that there is no reason to make a semi-automatic assault weapon into a fully automatic battlefield weapon.
It's not fully automatic. She doesn't know what she's talking about. It's not fully automatic.
It's not.
These are people again, they're the ones who used assault weapons ban. The word assault weapon itself means nothing. It's the look of it. It's an assault weapon. It was never a fully automatic weapon. It is a semi-automatic weapon, a different shape and a different style of gun than like a 9mm or a Walther PPK, but it's the same. It's semi-auto. One pull, one shot. So they botched that years ago when they were pushing the assault weapons ban during the Clinton administration, and ultimately sunsetted, and that ultimately was restored.
But it was the Obama ATF that okayed the use of these because they said the stock has no automatically functioning mechanical parts or springs. The shooter has to apply constant pressure, this is from a memo they wrote in 2010, with the non-shooting hand and constant rearward pressure with the shooting hand. Accordingly, we find the bump stock is a firearm part not regulated as a firearm under the Gun Control Act or the National Firearms Act.
Right, so they want to add it to another unique piece of legislation, and looks like there'll be Republicans. John Kasich is out there saying he could be fine supporting this. Ohio's a big gun-owning state. Lots of hunters, big gun-owning state. After years of resistance, GOP may back gun control measure. You see, the Democrats go for it. You have to admire the Democrats, just as a matter of political strategy. They have no compunction about using tragedy to push an erosion of our constitutional rights. And the Republicans' response is not to call them on their you-know-what. The Republicans' response is, good point. Well, maybe we can work with you, Dianne.
How many more must die? 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million? What is your blood price?
That was John Lewis, civil rights icon. How many more would die? Well, that's what the pro-life movement has been saying since the mid-'70s. How many more will die? Partial birth abortions, late-term abortions, children that could live outside the womb being brutally slaughtered. But we don't get this emotional coverage from the media. We never get that coverage. Where was this moral outrage during the clear and shocking uptick in violence in Baltimore and Chicago in the last 2 years? Where is that? Where did you hear any of these individuals go on and was the media staked out in South Central LA or in the mean streets of Baltimore or in down in near, Midway Airport in Chicago, where we got so much terrible, disgusting violence. Innocents killed every day. Every day. Single mothers, children, drive-bys. No, but this, oh, no, this, I own a lot of guns, and I'm a hunter and a sportsman. I think that's our right as Americans, but I don't understand the use of this bump stick, said Senator John Cornyn of Texas. 855-40-LAURA. 855-40-LAURA. You know where I'm going with this conversation. Do you believe the Republicans would be doing the right thing to work together with the Democrats to, they're just going to ban the bump stock. That's all they'll do, clearly. And won't that make you safer at a concert? Won't that make you safer at a large public gathering? To have these bump stocks? We've never had a shooting in U.S. history where a bump stock has been used until this one. Never. But the bump stock photo is selectively leaked to a European media outlet, and that becomes the meme. Not what Lombardo said yesterday and the day before. Cornyn and Feinstein and all these people, did they focus on this comment? Now listen closely. This is Sheriff Lombardo when he talked about what happened to this Stephen Paddock. What do we really know about him? Let's listen.
I want to understand the motivation that you describe, okay, to prevent any future incidents. And, did this person get radicalized unbeknownst to us? And we want to identify that source.
Okay. Does Dianne Feinstein find that to be disturbing to hear from the sheriff? They're talking about how he's just a madman. Just a madman. Oh, no, just a madman. He bought all these guns. He had the bump stocks. No. Something else is going on here. The sheriff drops the word radicalization. He looks shell-shocked. What do we not know about this guy, and why don't we know it? Why don't we have any information about his check-in, the time of check-in? Why don't we have any information about what he did online? Where's the access to this woman? I know they interviewed her for 4 hours. Oh, just how I look forward to a quiet life with him. Oh, okay. Put me in a room with her. I'll get the information out. 855-40-LAURA. A lot of you are wondering about the book tour. It starts Tuesday, October 10th. The book is out, Billionaire at the Barricades, The Populist Revolution from Reagan to Trump. We have a landing page on lauraingraham.com. Here are the tour stops so far. We're going to be right outside in Philadelphia, in a suburb of Philadelphia, and that's on Thursday, October 12th, next Thursday, a week from today. And then Myrtle Beach the next day, Friday, October 13th, at 5:30 p.m. at the Barnes & Noble in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. On Monday, we head to Oklahoma City for a 5:30 p.m. event. Again, you get the tickets on the website, lauraingraham.com. Then we move on to a big event with Kelly Ward in Scottsdale, Arizona, with Steve Bannon. It's going to be a rockin' time. We're going to have a wonderful time. I want to have all of you turn out. You're going to love the book. We're going to support Kelly. Goodbye, Jeff Flake. And then West Palm Beach on October 23rd at 12:30 p.m. It's going to be a fun lunch at the Forum Club at the Kravitz Performing Arts Center. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have interviews. Special guests will pop up. And Billionaire at the Barricades hits the bookstores, but you can pre-order it now on our website, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's also an audio book, so all of that's available on the website. It's called the Busting the Barricades Tour. We're going to bust them down together. A lot of people want to hold this country back. Populism, nationalism, sovereignty, all under attack. We're going to defend it, explain it to you. We're going to have a great time along the way.
I love the fall weather. I love the change of seasons. But just because the leaves are now dry and brittle doesn't mean your hair has to be. Cell Therapy Biovation will rejuvenate your hair, making it thicker, stronger, and healthier looking. You're going to love it. Cell Therapy Biovation resolves problems with split ends, dry, brittle hair, fine or flat hair, and even out-of-control curls. I know because I've been there. I've done that. People stop and ask me about my hair now because it looks that good. So join the Ovation Nation as I have. I use it. I recommend it to all my friends, my family, and I'm not alone. In a recent new customer survey, well over 90% of respondents said they would recommend Ovation Hair to a friend. All you need to do is go to ovationhair.com, select Laura Ingraham in the survey at checkout for a special new customer discount and free shipping for a limited time. Go to ovationhair.com. Remember, select Laura Ingraham in the checkout survey. Hurry, the free shipping offer ends soon. Cell therapy by Ovation will rejuvenate your hair, making it thicker, stronger, and healthier looking. You're going to love it. Go to ovationhair.com, select Laura.
A woman called in to my friend Michael Savage's radio show yesterday, and Michael and I were talking on the phone last night, and he said, I want you to hear what she said. And he sent me over an audio clip of the call, and I thought it was worth playing. This is someone who was at the concert. We have a lot of Vegas listeners who were also at the concert, so I want to hear from you. And this is what she described. Let's listen.
Well, we've noticed, and my husband noticed too, and I think even the Metro Police officer, there were shots that were higher pitched, there were shots that were lower sounding, and they were going at the same time, and the lower shots were getting closer to us. And I'm thinking, oh my God, there's somebody walking in the crowd, spraying their gun back and forth and shooting people, and he was getting closer. The shots would stop, the officer got up and walked out, and I heard his radio because I was right there. And we heard, we have active shooters. And then my officer who was protecting me said, where is he? Where is he? Do you see him? Is he behind us? Do you have a visual?
She described a very different scene when you're on the ground. I mean, again, things are crazy. I mean, you could talk to 5 different people. They'll have 5 different accounts of what happened. But there were now it's confirmed that it were 9 minutes of weapon fire. 9 minutes. 855-40-LAURA. 16 unanswered questions about the Las Vegas shooting that mainstream media don't want to talk about. Great piece from Zero Hedge. The hotel room photos leaked, and one of those photos appears to show a suicide note. Why hasn't the public been told what's in this note? They claim it's not a suicide note. What was in the note? Were there additional shooters? We'll play a soundbite for you when we come back before we talk to Cliff Van Zandt about what Sheriff Lombardo said about the supposed superhuman qualities of Mr. Paddock. Change of seasons, but just because you love the leaves and the colors of the leaves doesn't mean your hair has to look like the leaves. That means dry and brittle. Forget that. You don't want that. Cell therapy by Ovation will rejuvenate your hair, making it thicker, stronger, and so much healthier looking. Cell therapy by Ovation, what it does is it resolves problems with the split ends, the brittle hair, the flat, fine hair, even the out-of-control curls that sometimes bother folks. I love curls, but some people want their curls to be smooth. Well, I know that because, look, I've been there with hair, this problem hair, and now that I use Ovation, things have gotten so much better with my hair. I love the compliments, and, you know, I'm a girl. I like being complimented on my hair. But, men, you want nice hair, too. So join the Ovation Nation, as so many of you already have. I use it. I recommend it. 90% of those who've used Ovation hair care products recommend Ovation hair to friends. All you need to do is go to ovationhair.com, select Laura Ingraham in the survey at checkout, and you get a special new customer discount as well and free shipping for a limited time. Okay, again, it's ovationhair.com. Remember, select Laura Ingraham in the checkout. Hurry, free shipping offer ends. That was Sheriff Lombardo yesterday from Las Vegas saying essentially he couldn't have done it on his own. This is what we've been saying for days. How can a man who's 64 years old do all of this, run between windows 22 feet apart? So many people on the ground describe this as 2 different types of guns shooting simultaneously. And we've gotten conflicting information for days about how long the shooting lasted. The timeline, even of his check-in, has been confusing. There's a woman who's a maid there who produces a receipt who says he checked in 2 days before the police are telling you. And she has a receipt. The receipt was produced that shows it was room service for 2. Now, maybe he just ate a lot, so it looked like it was for 2. Okay, that's fine. Then just find that out for us. And it would help, would it not, if we had the video of his checking into the hotel.
And we haven't heard from Jesus, who was the guy who worked there, who was shot and then went back.
Oh, he's an amazing guy, by the way. What an amazing person. Joining us now is Cliff Van Zandt. He's the FBI's former chief hostage negotiator, criminal profiler from the Bureau's Behavioral Science Unit. Been dying to talk to him about this whole situation. There's so many unanswered questions, and I think the police and the feds owe it to the American people who are scared. A lot of people are scared to go to these concerts now and to public events. They need to be told the truth, not what's politically in vogue or that advances a particular political agenda, but just the truth, just the facts, ma'am. Cliff joins us now. Cliff, how are you? Good to talk to you.
Good. Well, number one, I'm going to a concert Saturday night, so I think, America's got to step out and do it. If you like concerts, go to concerts and trust that law enforcement's going to do their very best to keep them safe.
Well, that might be the case, but there are a lot of questions that are unanswered. We now have Sheriff Lombardo use words like radicalization as it applies to Mr. Paddock. He raised the issue of how can a 64-year-old man carry out all of this by himself with seemingly no official formal firearms training, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, he has to have gotten help somewhere along the line. And we get selective leaks of photos from the crime scene in a foreign media outlet. Selective leaks where guns are just, it seemed like they're perfectly placed on the ground. A gun tripod has fallen on him. Apparently those are his feet. He blew his head off, and there's a tripod that's fallen on his shin. I mean, what jumps out at you, Cliff, that might be a little bit odd here? And I'm someone, by the way, who does not traffic in conspiracy theories because I don't like conspiracy theories, but conspiracy theories tend to grow out of a lack of information.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist either. You've got to look at the sheriff. I mean, he is on the horns of a dilemma. Number one, he has to put out a message that Las Vegas is safe, that people can come, they can continue to come, they're bringing on in. We've got this well in hand, and yet you don't want to do, as you know from your legal background, you don't want to say, okay, we've got it, there's only one shooter, that's it, and 15, 30 days from now, you do oh my God, how did we miss that? There was a second shooter. So I think he's trying to walk the fine line between being an investigator and being an elected official, while the rest of America, and really the rest of the world, is saying, just like you're saying, is one guy capable of this? Did he bring 10 containers of guns up to his room at one time? Or did he bring 3 over a period of days or something? And, of course, the information is coming out now that a week prior he rented a condo overlooking yet another outdoor venue. Was he planning on shooting then and something went awry? Was he just trying to get a feel for that? And had he planned on this as his killing field all along? These are the questions you're trying to answer. Some of the questions I hope that his girlfriend, when the FBI brought her back from overseas, that she would have answered for them yesterday. And, of course, her attorney gave a very narrow response that would be very much in her background, supporting of her. But if the FBI interviewed her for 4 years, or if that was you and I sitting there talking to her for 4 hours, if we talked to her for 4 hours, we would get a lot of information. For example, we know since last October he bought 33 of the 47 weapons. Well, what prompted this hurry-up mode on him? We always, from the profiling standpoint, we always look for some incident. What took place that turned this person on, that put him in high speed? What from the time when he was 60, when he wasn't planning anything like this apparently, till a year ago or 6 months ago, what happened in his life? And that's what they're trying to do, is reconstruct at least the last year, at least from the time he started buying those weapons up to the current time. And as you know, in Vegas, they can go into this hotel room, they can get the cameras, they can get the phone bills. They can put this guy's life together in a video for at least the last 2 weeks that he was in and out of Vegas. Who did he have contact with? Could there have been a second person? Was there a grassy knoll that we don't know about? That's what I think we're trying to find out now.
Well, and I found it odd that within hours of the shooting, Clint, they were discounting the idea that there was any connection to terrorism. They were discounting the idea that there was a second shooter or an accomplice. And I wondered why that would be. They immediately said it's a lone wolf, it's a lone wolf, it's a lone wolf.
Well, number one, of course, they wanted to tell Las Vegas it was safe, even if that's a false sense of security that, over the years sometimes TSA has given us on airline security. But I think the second is they could very quickly look at his social media. They could look at who he had contact with on his phones, on his laptop, on anything at home. The normal radicalization, should it be a Middle Eastern radicalization, you would see contacts, you would see downloads, you would see internet searches.
I get that, but I don't take everything at face value that I hear from when this was like 7 hours after the shooting, and they're already. It's a little early.
Isn't that though the dilemma we're on? I mean, we all want to know immediately, and yet we all know that these things
or say
take
we
time.
don't know. Clint, my point is, why are they rushing out to say within 7 hours of the shooting, there was no accomplice, there was no connection to terrorism, he acted alone, and there was definitely only one shooter. And the police at the spot, Clint, kept saying they confirmed multiple shooters. Then at one point they said at least 3 shooters. People on the ground said, and we just played a call from a woman who was there who said there was gunfire coming in much lower than they claim, and we saw it coming in. So I mean, people who were there are contradicting what we're now hearing, and I just find it very odd that we leak certain photos of the crime scene to a foreign press outlet. Like, they can find out, I would assume, who leaked the photos. Only a certain number of people are allowed in that room to take photos, right? I mean, you've been in those crime scenes.
Somebody leaked the photos, somebody sold the photos, something happened there that never should have happened. When I was listening to that shooting, and I've listened to it over and over, and, I was an FBI agent, I was in Vietnam, I've heard automatic weapons fire. I thought, to join in the conspiracy theory that we don't want to promote, I thought I heard the tempo of 2 different guns at the same time. So does that mean he had one weapon on either shoulder and he was firing? Does that mean the sound was echoing off those buildings? Does that mean we picked it up on different microphones and therefore it sounded different? Or does that mean there were 2 shooters? That's another thing they have to answer. But Laura, they're going to be in that room. They're going to be going over the forensics on the guns, fingerprints, DNA. They're going to look at each individual bullet or round or cartridge case for a fingerprint for who might have loaded it in a magazine. They're going to be looking at glasses for fingerprints and DNA and food and all of that. That will not be dismissed. And for me, you always go on the theory that there are multiple people involved until you can prove it's not. You don't start and saying there's nobody involved until I can prove otherwise.
Thank you. That's exactly what I said from the beginning. Why are they discounting the possibility that there was more than one person? Why did they? It was definitive. It was definitive. But when we went on the air at 9 a.m., it was definitive. There was only one shooter. He was a lone wolf. No connection to terrorism.
And the other day I heard this theory start to arise. Well, this was drug-induced because he had been given a prescription for Valium. Well, from the late 60s all the way through the 80s, that was the most popular drug in America. 60 million people have a prescription for Valium. How many of those turn into mass shooters? So, could that have sparked something in him? I would suggest no. I would say the opposite. If, in fact, he did have a prescription for an anti-anxiety drug, it may have been part of his planning. He wanted to be sure that he reduced his anxiety level so he could function better.
You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Clint Van Sant is with us. Clint, the fact that ISIS claimed that he was one of them, that doesn't really mean anything. It's kind of interesting, but who believes them?
Yeah. That doesn't put a lot of feathers in my bonnet when I hear something like that. Number one, you're right. Who believes them? Number two, what evidence do we have, if anything, that suggests, as ISIS says, he has become a convert in the last few months? And, most of the converts, most of the ISIS terrorists, they're not going to put a gun in their mouth and pop themselves. They're going to go down in a blaze of glory if on the other side of eternity they think there's something waiting for them other than hell. And so I kind of dismiss anything that has to do with ISIS. Now, when the sheriff, when the chief, when the FBI, when anybody says radicalization, that doesn't simply mean Islamic terrorism, radical Islamic terrorism. One can become radicalized for a number of different thoughts, ideas, political, religious, personal. So radicalization in and of itself should not define what he may or may have gone under within the last year.
Well, I think we're going to, I hope, find answers to all of these questions. And the selective leaking of photos or theories, to me, is done not just for money, but to shape public opinion, and perhaps even some type of legislative.
What I want to see go away, though. You have been right there when we have been arguing Second Amendment rights for years now. But and I'm a gun owner. I carried a gun all my career. I have no problems with Americans owning guns. Bump stocks, I don't know why someone, you say I'm a recreational shooter. I like to shoot 50 or 100 rounds at one time. What we're doing, Laura, we're reaching out. We're saying, how do we legislate morality? And the answer is you don't. You don't legislate morality. You don't legislate sanity. You don't legislate the Ten Commandments. If we want to feel good about something and say, okay, we've legislated away bump stocks so we can't change the semi-automatic into a fully automatic, that's fine. But instead of gun control, we need self-control. We need to work with kids and children in grade school and bring them up and have them look at violence as the last means for conflict resolution instead of let's pass a law, feel good, and go on and tear each other apart.
I don't know how many people he would have killed if he didn't have the bump stock. He would have still killed a lot of people. And maybe it wouldn't have been 59. Maybe not. Yeah. I don't know.
But there recreationally, I don't see a big reason to have a bump stock. I've fired a lot of automatic weapons in my life. All you do is chew up a lot of ammunition, and it costs a lot of money.
Is that the problem? Is that really the problem?
No,
or do politicians just want us to think, they're doing something? They're doing something. They're doing something. Oh, come on. It is. They'll take a van, a SUV, whatever they want, a bomb, a suit, a backpack, whatever they want to kill a lot of people. They'll figure it out. If this guy is this smart, he'll figure out another way to kill a lot of people. That's my sense. I appreciate it. Clint Van Zandt here on the Laura Ingraham Show. He echoed what we thought, that it certainly seemed like there was more than one shooter from the way this thing sounded. Don't rule out anything until it's completely ruled out. Why are we rushing to rule things out? All right, we'll be in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philly, in Seward, New Jersey, on Thursday, and that's October 12th at 7 p.m. All the details for that are on lauraingraham.com. Click on that big banner ad for the Busting the Barricades tour. You don't want to miss it. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'll be there next Friday, the 13th. Good luck. Oklahoma City the following Monday, October 16th. Scottsdale, Arizona, with Kelly Ward and Steve Bannon taking down Jeff Flake. That's going to be fun. Tuesday, October 17th. And West Palm Beach, Florida on Monday, October 23rd at 12:30 p.m. at the Kravis Center for Performing Arts. All those details. Billionaire at the Barricades, out Tuesday.
We're not talking about taking guns away from people. What we're talking about is to make sure that people who have guns register and that there are background checks on that to prevent other people from being in harm's way. But no one is questioning your right to have a gun or to eliminate your safety.
Well, because Nancy is going to outline why you would need a gun, too. You could only have, it's just for safety. None of the government has no right to question us about our purchases if we're law-abiding people. We're not hurting anybody. We have a constitutional right to have a firearm. Supreme Court has said as much. It's an individual right that cannot be abridged. Except, Scalia did open the door to some reasonable regulation, and that's why we have things like machine gun bans, except for grandfathered in machine guns. And remember, they first said there was a machine gun used here, and there wasn't.
Right.
And it was the bump stock, and that's what everybody's talking about now. But what would be the problem for any of you listening right now? What would be the problem of a gun registry. I mean, what could go wrong with the federal government having a registry of all the gun owners? Never going to be hacked, by the way, right?
Well, some Second Amendment advocates have pointed to state levels because some states had or have gun registries and they've been used to confiscate weapons in the past. So it is not a fantasy that on the federal level it could be used for the same end. And that's why it's been opposed for so long.
Well, that's what they really want. They want the registry so then they know who has what where. Once they have the list, they have the control. And that's what gun owners don't like. The government, again, has limits on what it can do. Our founding documents limited the government's reach. This is why I wrote this book about populism that's coming out next week. The people have a right to be free from unnecessary government intrusion. Big government always ends up being an enemy of the people, enemy of the individual rights. Big government, especially when it colludes with big business, means big trouble for the little person, the regular person who doesn't have a 24/7 security detail like Nancy does, or live in neighborhoods that are gated like Nancy does. She doesn't have to worry about any of this, but other people do. And frankly, if they want to have a gun in their home and use it as a doorstop, if they're not hurting anybody, and we want guns to be stored safely. I mean, I'm a massive advocate of gun safety. I grew up with them, and when you grow up with guns, you're taught gun safety. A gun is scary if you don't know what you're doing. Never point a gun. Don't store it unsafely. All those. But get back to the point. The government does not have this right. Start making lists of Americans, lists, registries. I have a big problem with that. But you see, this is the way this was going from the very beginning of how this story was covered. We just had FBI profiler Clint Van Zandt on the show. And he said, as a profiler, with all of his years at the FBI, it was drilled into their heads that you did not rule things out until they were definitively ruled out. The lone wolf. Really? We had the sheriff yesterday saying he doesn't understand how this guy could have done it alone. We'll play that soundbite again, James. Is he Superman? He can do this all by himself.
I have not made a statement until now because I have been cooperating with the authorities.
No, that's not it.
You look at the weapon obtaining, the different amounts of tannerite available. Do you think this was all accomplished on his own? Self-value, face value, you got to make the assumption he had to have some help at some point. And we want to ensure that that's the answer. Maybe he's a super guy. Maybe he's, a super yahoo that was working out all this on his own. But it'd be hard for me to believe that.
855-40-LAURA. James, give me the call list, because a lot of people tried to get in last hour. They couldn't. We'll go to Al in California. Line 1. Al, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to mention I'm in Northern California. Never thought I'd have to get a CCW, but me and my wife did a few years ago. And how they get around this with this gun control is, first of all, you're supposed to conceal carry, but California doesn't allow any smaller handguns, okay? So I can barely carry the one that I've got, because you can go to Nevada and get a small gun. And then no new guns are allowed in California that don't imprint a serial number from the hammer onto the back of the bullet. So that technology doesn't even exist. Therefore, you go to your local gun shop now, and there are no guns. There's just a few token handguns because all of them, they don't pass the California little regulations.
But Oakland doesn't have any gun issue, right? Right, no problem in Oakland with gun violence or anything like that. The bad guys don't get the weapons, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous. I have a lot of family in California, and we're big gun owners in our family. And I hear the same thing in Connecticut, Massachusetts. They're making it more expensive to get a concealed handgun permit, extremely expensive. So for most people, they can't afford it. Isn't that wild? You have to pay to exercise your Second Amendment rights. So imagine if you had to pay the government to exercise your First Amendment rights. So you actually have to pay them to speak. that crazy? Bill, Nevada. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not a conspiracy theorist either, but I like to draw conclusions based on facts guided by common sense and experience. Let me first mention, you mentioned the Zero Hedge article. There are 3 videos in that article, one in particular taken from inside a car that definitely shows semi-automatic fire coming from a window that's probably on about the 12th or 13th floor. I would suggest, you take a look at that because there's no doubt that that's what it is. And my second thing, the more facts that seem to be popping up and that as I familiarize myself, we know the government lies to us. Okay, I mean, they lied about Fast and Furious, Benghazi, you name it. If this guy wanted to create as much carnage as he obviously wanted to, why would he kill himself? Why not, blow away as many police officers as he could when they breached the room? But by sticking a gun in his mouth and blowing the back of his head off, now we have no witness.
Yeah, convenient.
And I'm very familiar with weapons. I'm a vet. I'm very familiar with weapons. The other thing is, why would you? There's no reason that you would have 23 weapons in a room. I mean, you couldn't possibly use them all.
Why would he have ever brought that many? For what reason? Well, he's just crazy. Okay, that's crazy. We always say he's crazy. It's just because he's crazy. But the sheriff yesterday, by the way, basically confirmed what you said or raised the issue of what you just said. And he said we have evidence that he wanted to escape. He didn't intend to be committing suicide. Didn't look like it in the way he had this thing laid out. I mean, he believed he was going to escape. So again, just don't rule things out until they're definitively ruled out. Don't rush to rule things out. I'd like to know more about what money he was sending to the Philippines and why. Why did he send, if this is the case, $100,000 to the Philippines? Why? For what reason? Ryan in Texas has used bump stocks. Ryan.
Yes, ma'am. This is Ryan, and bump stocks with 100 rounds like were coming out in those videos, it would be more difficult to be synchronized like what you heard. Sounded more like an M240 or something like that. I definitely agree with the other caller. There is video of muzzle blast coming from about halfway up that building.
That's what that woman said. That's what that woman said who called into Michael Savage. We're going to play this again. So, again, this was a woman who called into Savage's show yesterday afternoon. She was there as the bullets were flying. This is what she said.
Well, we've noticed, and my husband noticed too, and I think even the Metro Police officer, there were shots that were higher pitched. There were shots that were lower sounding, and they were going at the same time, and the lower shots were getting closer to us. And I'm thinking, oh my God, there's somebody walking in the crowd, spraying their gun back and forth and shooting people. And he was getting closer. The shots would stop. The officer got up and walked out, and I heard his radio because I was right there. And we heard, we have active shooters. And then my officer who was protecting me said, where is he? Where is he? Do you see him? Is he behind us? Do you have a visual?
I mean, I'd like to hear from other people who were there. I mean, again, one person saying something is not dispositive at all. But is Ryan, are you still there? Okay, let's go to Bill in Maine. Bill.
Hi. I think we're not looking at the right issue here, really. We have two tower shooters in history. One was this one, the other one was in 1966, the UT Texas shooter. Both were on Valium. This is a very dangerous drug. It's not the access to guns because we have 200 years of evidence that with plenty of access to guns, there weren't any mass shootings. These mass shootings began with the mass distribution of these psych meds, the antidepressant, antipsychotic medication. That's what we need to be looking at. And the FBI profiler said we shouldn't rule things out, but he kind of quickly ruled out Valium. He said, well, there's 60 million Americans on Valium, so therefore he dismissed Valium as the problem. But I think that's exactly what the problem is. And all you have to do is read the warnings on these medications. They talk about suicide and aggression and hostility.
Yep. All of the warnings on the labels. People have killed themselves on the antidepressants. And look, I really empathize with people who are going through serious depression. It's bad. I remember when my mother was dying, I went through a really hard time. It was awful. Awful. You feel like the sun's never going to come out. You just feel like it's never going to come out. It's an awful feeling. But there's always a side effect. To every drug, there's a side effect. And you're right, these anti-anxiety medications, people pop them like they're Tic Tacs. Who knows how this affected him? I don't know. I'm not a medical professional, but I think it's really smart of you to raise this. He was prescribed this anti-anxiety drug in June. Diazepam, which is it's Xanax. Yeah, Xanax. And what that did to him, he was supposed to take 1 pill a day. Maybe he was taking 5. What's the toxicology on him? It doesn't take long to do a toxicology report. 4 or 5 days, maybe. Do a full toxicology. What was it? How much alcohol did he drink? Was he drinking alcohol with this anti-anxiety? Have you ever seen those labels?
Yeah.
Do not drink. I remember when I took my wisdom teeth out in college. It says, I remember they gave you that codeine, Tylenol.
Took them out
with
yourself,
codeine.
or you went to the dentist?
No, I went to the dentist.
Oh, good.
But I stayed awake they ripped those things out with pliers. I still remember.
I've never had
brutal.
mine out. Ooh.
Awful. So I remember they gave me the Tylenol with codeine, and it says a big thing. Do not drink alcoholic beverages. Of course, like Dartmouth, we were drinking woo, green machines, let's go. And I woke up with my face was beet red. It was really bad. But you can't drink alcohol on this stuff. This guy was a boozer. Big boozer. All right, these are great points all my listeners are making. 855-40-LAURA. When we come back, Michelle Obama continues on her tear against the current state of politics in the United States, mostly directed at Donald Trump. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. Bill O'Reilly will be joining us in just a matter of moments. The Billionaire at the Barricades book, my book, out Tuesday. It's very exciting. Just opened the box. I'm tweeting out a photo of it right now, but just opened the box. And the tour kicks off next week. All the details are on lauraingraham.com. We're going to Oklahoma City, right outside of Philadelphia as well. We're going to West Palm Beach. We're going to Scottsdale, Arizona. Going to Las Vegas and Myrtle Beach. We're going to have a great time. That's just the beginning. And then somewhere along the line, we're going to launch a television show as well. So this is going to be fun. So we'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA, asking all the right questions, just seeking answers along with
Equifax recently announced a breach of 143 million identities, and you need to take steps to get protection. Be among the millions who trust their identity protection to LifeLock. LifeLock uses proprietary technology to detect if your personal info is being used by thieves for a range of threats to your identity. From your info appearing on the dark web to payday loans in your name or any number of other threats. And if there's a problem, one of their identity restoration agents will work to fix it. They know the steps to take and the calls to make to resolve problems as quickly as possible. No one can prevent all ID theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. But rest assured that LifeLock has been helping people come out on the bright side of identity theft for over a decade. Starting at just $9.99 plus applicable taxes, get 10% off by using promo code LAURA, and you need to take steps to get protection. That's 1-800-LifeLock, or go to lifelock.com. Always mention Laura. That's Laura for 10% off.
We won't know. Well, I think you can know a lot with computers today. You find out a lot about somebody. But we're just ruling things out. Well, we'll never know. Well, it's a lone wolf. Well, he was going to commit suicide anyway. Well, there's only one shooter. Well, no, we didn't confirm any of this. None of this has been confirmed. We have selective leaks of photos from a hotel room and a few seconds of body cam photos and body cam images. Video. That's about it. That's all we have. Let's go to Arizona. Who is it? Megan, go ahead, girl.
Hi, I have two friends that were there, and they said that they heard shots very close to them. And then I just saw a video last night someone posted, and it appears appears that there's a shooter in the crowd. How would I send this in to see if, if this is a valid video?
Well, I don't know exactly what you're looking at. We're going to put you on hold. You can send it to us. I've seen and heard of some of these video clips. Remember, you have to verify that actually occurred at the scene. A lot of stuff floating out there is just fake news, but I'm not discounting it. And that confirms what that caller to Michael Savage's show last night said, that there were shots coming much lower and from within the crowd. And what happened to the woman who said you're all going to die tonight at the concert? Anyone ever find her? 855-40-LAURA. All right, remember, the Billionaire at the Barricades tour kicks off next week. All the info is on lauraingraham.com. Please go there. We want to see as many of you as possible on this book tour. I just opened the box and opened up the first book. Very cool. Have you ever thought of Hillsdale College in terms of impacting K through 12 education? Well, they are, and they're improving young lives in the process. Hillsdale has founded more than a dozen charter schools nationwide, with more opening every year. They provide curricula, they train their faculty, and offer support and advice. And get this, Hillsdale doesn't take a penny for these services. They do it for free. It's called the Barney Charter School Initiative, and it's funded entirely by donors. You know that Hillsdale College education, well, it produces graduates who are a cut above the rest. They're young adults of character, they know how to be good citizens, and know those same teaching methods and principles are used for primary education, too. Now, learn more about this important work at lauraforhillsdale.com. A video there will show you how Hillsdale is building character in children all across this country, teaching these young people how to live full and flourishing human lives. Hillsdale does this without taking a penny of government money and not one penny from the schools. Learn more at lauraforhillsdale.com. And it's annoying when you hear these things repeated, because they're said for a reason. They're said to affect public opinion, change your views on an issue, or, of course, make you just think Republicans are horrible, awful, evil, rotten people who want 59 people dead. And the Washington Examiner did a great piece about this, and they're saying, that, look, Congress voted to overturn this last-minute Obama-era regulation that would give the Social Security Administration the power to revoke a person's Second Amendment rights based on whether he receives disability for a mental impairment that keeps him from working, or if he uses a representative payee to help manage their benefits. Now, the repeal of this Obama-era regulation does not allow people to buy guns who have been properly adjudicated by a court of law as mentally ill or unstable. So it doesn't allow what Hillary just said. But the Obama-era rule was designed to take away people's rights without due process of law. It would have flagged the names of people who, like, for example, in this piece it says, have an anxiety disorder or depression which keeps them from working. Now, this wouldn't have affected him anyway, of course, because he was retired. Or if you need help in managing your money affairs, and the old regulation, well, I need help managing my money affairs. A lot of people need help managing their money affairs. They're not good with money. As many non-political mental health and autism advocacy groups that supported the House action noted, there is no link between these factors and a propensity for violence. It's also worth noting that there are already regulations on firearm purchases by persons who have a documented history of mental illness or who have shown themselves to be a danger, the Examiner reminds us. None of this would have stopped Stephen Paddock from murdering 59 people in Las Vegas. None of it. But Hillary Clinton feels better going out there and saying that, doesn't she? So Republican lawmakers properly rolled back this regulation. It was the right thing to do. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. A lot of information that we talk about, the news that we address on this show, you can read in depth on lauraingraham.com. So I want you to go there. When you go there, you can see the information about our tour, which kicks off next week. And a lot of you have been emailing and tweeting and asking when you coming to a town near me. And we have the initial stops on the tour listed. It's easy for you to just click on, and you can get tickets. I'll be at some bookstores as well, so you can get the information there. And then the television show, The Ingraham Angle, kicks off on October 30th. So you're not going to want to miss that. That's going to be also a lot of fun. So October 30th, Monday. I'm trying to figure out what my Halloween costume is. Should I be one of those anchors who wears a Halloween costume to the set? I have to take my kids out just for a little while before the show. The show is live at 10 o'clock, so I'll be able to do a little trick-or-treating beforehand. But I don't know if I'm going to wear a costume or not. Remember when I dressed up as Kathleen Sebelius during the Obamacare debate?
That was classic.
Oh my gosh, that was. I was passing out to all the kids who came in for trick or treat. I put candy in their bag. Then I put a little description of Obamacare, the bill, in the bag. Kids were like, "What's that?" Like, "Oh, it's just a joke. Don't worry." Joining us now, Bill O'Reilly. Of course, his new book, Killing England, another huge bestseller. He's the host of the No Spin News podcast, and he joins us now. Bill, how you doing? Good to talk to you.
Good, thank you, Lauren. We hit number 1 on the New York Times list, knocking out Hillary Clinton. You'll see that a week from Sunday. And BillO'Reilly.com, you're going to be our special guest on Tuesday, so everything's going well for me.
Fantastic. Well, my book's coming out Tuesday, so I'm going to knock you off number 1. So sorry about that, but someone's got to knock you down a peg or two. You're too often on number 1.
Lose to you than Hillary.
Yeah, exactly. You're too often on number 1. You need a little competition. You start to get flabby when you don't have any competition. So I'm going to give you a little competition next week, Bill. Let's talk about this. The Democrats' lurch to regulate firearms and all the things that they always do after a shooting like this. We'll do that in a moment. But before we do, what questions do you have that are lingering after these initial reports that, of course, he was a lone wolf, acted alone, no terrorism connection, no motive, no religion, no politics? All that information was pushed out really quickly within 6 or 7 hours of the shooting. And yet we seem to be learning more and more as the days go on.
Well, we did an investigation, and it's ongoing on BillO'Reilly.com, and came up with 2 things that I think are very important. The first thing is that the purchases of almost around 50 guns in the last year or so by this man, all were legal, and they all went into the FBI database. 50 high-powered weapons in 1 year. Now, you would think, in the age of Al-Qaeda and ISIS and all the terror, that would put a red flag up for the FBI, that they would know about that. Not true. The data goes into the computer and isn't flagged, even if you buy an enormous amount of weaponry. And that is a flaw. Absolutely a flaw. Because anything out of the ordinary, and the government tells everybody to do this. If you see something, say something. All right? If you're at the airport, you see suspicions, report it. Okay. Well, the FBI has got to have a mechanism in their machinery to flag them when something's out of the ordinary, which this certainly was. That's number 1. Number 2, when we're talking to a local security guy, he came up with something that I had never even thought about. Every police department in America, when they have an event of, say, more than 2,000 or 3,000 people, has to have SWAT teams posted around the event. Las Vegas PD did not. So they had 25,000 people standing in a what was pretty much an empty lot, but they had no SWAT team. If they had that, they could have immediately started shooting at the sniper. Then I learned that at Yankee Stadium, during the ball games, the NYPD posts snipers in the stadium high above the game. And so to me, that were the 2 things that I learned, 2 things that could really save lives if we, make the FBI be more efficient and get the word out to local PDs. You got something like this, you got to have SWAT and snipers available.
So what what would you do? Would you outlaw people buying a certain number of guns per year or in some time frame, or you just go visit them, or what would you do?
Yeah, you interview them. Look, the Second Amendment is fairly clear that Americans have a right to arm themselves and protect themselves, and it's not going to be infringed. And that's not going to change, no matter how many loony leftists in short pants jump up and down and scream. It's not going to change. You could change it by a vote of 3/4 of the states. You could throw that amendment out, but it's not going to happen. However, within the amendment are common sense public safety rules. You cannot have a bazooka or a mortar, all right? It's a public safety issue. You can extend that a little bit to these stock things that take a semi-automatic and turn it into an automatic. You can ban them. The criminals will still get them. We all know that. You know, this guy had explosives. If he had used the explosives in a car bomb, he would have killed more people. And what are you going to do? You can't ban things that make bombs. So we have to basically do what we can do. You know, I wrote a column and it said, this is the price of freedom, that loons are going to hurt people. You know, even if he knew this guy was unstable, even if the FBI had gone out, he would have said, I'm a collector and I'm just doing this as a hobby and I have no record. And the FBI couldn't have done anything to him. But at least they would have known about him. And that's why the interviews that should take place are necessary.
We're talking to Bill O'Reilly here on the Laura Ingraham Show. His latest book, Killing England, is a huge bestseller, #1 New York Times list. BillO'Reilly.com. Bill, when you hear the left, the usual suspects on the left, people like Michael Moore, we'll hear from him in a moment. They instantly go to the president's nuts, the president's crazy, must be removed from office. I want to play this and have you react to it. Let's listen.
We have got to get rid of Trump. I mean, it's serious. I hate to put it this way, but I have a fire lit under me, I guess, and I'm doing whatever I can do, and I think people watching this are doing what they can do. He will take us to war. We have to stand up immediately. Don't even stop to if Trump is taking us to war, you have to automatically assume this is an insane idea from an insane man.
That's touching on the North Korea issue. Rick Wilson, who is a GOP consultant, and they were embarrassed in the last election. He has a film he's trying to raise money for called "Everything Trump Touches Dies," and he's put on, he writes for the Daily Beast, is on television, and all they do all day long is say Trump's evil, Obama a saint. Trump's evil, Obama's a saint. Trump's crazy, Obama's brilliant. Day in and day out.
Correct. At least Michael Moore is honest enough to state what he wants. The Washington Post, New York Times, network news organizations, they want the same thing, but they don't state it. But Pew just did a study you might be aware of that said in the first 3 months of Trump's administration, national media coverage favorable 5% of the time. 5%.
I mean, it's just...
And that's before Trump got in, didn't even do anything. So we know the fix is in. But here's some good news. Looking at the cable news ratings for the Vegas story this week, which is a big story, all right? Everybody in America is engaged on this story. It's not a political story. It's a horror story. And decent Americans are very, very interested in this and why it happened and trying to prevent it from happening again. Okay. The two liberal networks, CNN and MSNBC, are getting clobbered in the ratings, particularly MSNBC. No one is watching them. So ask yourself why. Why, in a breaking news situation, would viewers reject those two networks the way they are? And it's because they don't trust them to tell the truth. Okay? That's the reason. So all of this hate Trump stuff is beginning now to work against the far left and the dishonest hordes that their only goal is to make it impossible for him to carry out his administration.
What did it feel like, Bill, to be back on Fox last week with Hannity? I mean, I watched every minute. It was awesome. It was a great almost an hour you were on for. And so many people, of course, asked me, are you going back to Fox? Are you going back to Fox? And all these people want you to go back to Fox. But you're really missed out there on daily television. And what was that like, walking back into the building?
Well, first of all, Sean Hannity had really stepped up and helped me. I don't think Killing England would be number one without his help. Solid guy, known him for a long time, just like I've known you for a long time. He knows that what happened was an organized political hit job, because the same thing was happening to him. Yet he was able to fight it back, and more power to Sean Hannity. When I came in the building, the best part of it was that I saw all my old staff and everybody, all the tech guys, and it was like a big party. So I went up to the studio, about 20 minutes before airtime, and the place was packed. It was rocking. And that was the best part, that these are good people. And I so enjoyed seeing them again, talking about, I don't know really what I'm going to do. Laura, you're going to start a new show on Fox News, and I hope you'll keep in close touch with me, because I will help you every step of the way.
Bet.
But you got to be prepared. You're going to be attacked personally every single day of your life, and I was for more than 20 years, every single day. It's so hateful. It's so horrible now. And if you read Cheryl Atkinson's book, The Smear, she lays it out as vividly as you could possibly lay it out with facts.
Well, I think that you're right. It will happen. Good thing is I don't read anything. I don't read any of the stuff that they write or really care. But you're right. It is vicious. But that was a phenomenal segment with you. I really enjoyed it. It was one of the best hours of TV I've seen in a long, long time. Bill O'Reilly, congrats on the book. We'll see you next week on your show. And, of course, Killing England, #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Bill O'Reilly.